In a small, quiet town, Officer Emily Harper's life takes an unexpected turn when she discovers a scared little girl, Mia, hiding in a dumpster. As Emily uncovers the dark secrets surrounding Mia's past and the dangerous man chasing them, she finds herself facing not only external threats but also her own fears of opening her heart again. Together they embark on a journey of healing, trust, and love that neither of them could have foreseen. But with danger lurking at every corner, will Emily be able to protect Mia and herself from the shadows of their past? What happens next? You'll have to watch to find out. Comment below what you think will happen, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming and thrilling stories like this one. Officer Emily Harper lived by rules, ones she made and ones she enforced. Her small, quiet town of Belridge fit her perfectly. Every day was predictable, from her early morning coffee to her nightly patrols. Life hadn't always been this way for Emily, but years of being a cop had hardened her. Tragedy had done the rest. The town was close-knit. People gossiped about the usual things: small-town politics, children's school performances, and the weather. Emily was always respected, but also a bit of a mystery. No one really knew her, not beyond her uniform. On this night, as Emily walked her usual beat, the streets were still. The only sounds were the distant hum of cars on the highway and the occasional bark of a dog. The chill of the night air nipped at her face, but Emily didn't mind. She found peace in the quiet. The same shops she had visited 1,000 times were dark and closed. The same houses, their windows glowing with soft light, were familiar and unchanging. But tonight would be different. As Emily turned down a dimly lit alley, she heard it, a faint rustling, followed by a soft cry. She stopped, listening more closely. For a second, she considered walking away. Stray animals often knocked over trash cans or scurried through the alleyways, but something in her gut told her to stay. She pulled her flashlight from her belt and clicked it on. The beam of light sliced through the darkness, landing on a large, rusted dumpster. The noise had come from there. "Anyone there?" Emily called, her voice steady despite the unease creeping into her chest. No response, only a faint whimper. She took a deep breath and approached the dumpster, her heart rate quickening. With one hand on her holster, she lifted the heavy lid. What she saw inside made her stomach twist. A little girl, no more than 6, was curled up in the trash, her small body shaking with each sob. Her face was dirty, her clothes torn and stained, and her wide eyes, dark with fear, looked up at Emily. "Oh my God," Emily whispered, her usual composed demeanor crumbling at the sight. "Hey," she said gently, reaching out toward the girl. "It's okay. I'm here to help." The girl didn't speak, only whimpered. Emily's heart ached at the sight. She reached into the dumpster, her hands as gentle as she could manage, and lifted the girl out. Her body was so light, too thin for a child her age. "What's your name?" Emily asked softly, cradling the girl close. "Mia," the girl stuttered, her voice barely audible. Emily's protective instincts, ones she thought had long since faded, flared back to life. She wasn't just a cop at that moment. She was something more. Holding Mia close, she promised, "You're safe now. I'm going to take care of you." The hospital was bright, sterile, and cold, but Emily felt a warmth she hadn't in years. Mia clung to her, the child's small body trembling as they walked through the doors. "Officer Harper?" A nurse, Linda Davis, approached, her kind eyes flicking between Emily and Mia. "She needs help," Emily said quickly, her voice firm but edged with concern. "She's malnourished, and I don't know if she's been hurt, but she's been living on the streets." Linda nodded, immediately gesturing for Emily to follow her. As they moved deeper into the hospital, Emily's mind whirled. She had found children in bad situations before, but something about Mia was different. Maybe it was the way she had curled into Emily's arms, Or maybe it was the fear in her eyes that reminded Emily of a pain she knew too well. In the small, dim examination room, a doctor, Dr. Caroline Rogers, came in with a clipboard. Her eyes were grave as she looked Mia over. "She's severely malnourished," Dr. Rogers said softly. "We'll need to run tests, but it's clear she's been neglected for a long time." Mia remained silent, watching everything with wide, terrified eyes. Emily sat by her side, feeling Mia's small hand grip hers tightly. "I'm going to stay right here," Emily promised. "I'm not going anywhere." Mia didn't respond, but her grip on Emily's hand tightened. Dr. Rogers continued the examination, making gentle remarks to Mia, trying to coax her into speaking, but the girl remained mute, except for the occasional whisper of her name. After a while, the door creaked open and Evelyn Johnson, the town's social worker, stepped inside. Her warm demeanor was betrayed by the exhaustion in her eyes. "Officer Harper," she said, nodding at Emily. "I heard you found her." Emily stood, her expression wary. "Yeah, she was in a dumpster." Evelyn sighed, looking down at Mia with a sad smile. "We'll take good care of her. She'll need to go into emergency foster care tonight." Something about those words hit Emily harder than she expected. She glanced at Mia, who was looking up at her with those big, scared eyes. "She can stay with me tonight," Emily found herself saying before she fully processed it. Evelyn blinked, surprised. "That's not—" "She's terrified. Look at her. I'll keep her safe until we figure out where she should go. Just for tonight." Evelyn hesitated, then nodded slowly. "All right. I'll have the paperwork sent over in the morning." As Evelyn left, Emily felt a weight lift from her chest. Mia looked up at her, her lips trembling. "Can I go home with you?" Mia asked in the tiniest of whispers. Emily's heart ached, and she bent down to look Mia in the eye. "Yeah, Mia, you can come home with me." Emily's house wasn't much, but it was safe. As she walked through the door with Mia in her arms, she realized how cold and empty the place felt. It was practical, everything in its place, just like her life had been. But now, with Mia in her home, it felt incomplete, as if something had been missing all along. Mia refused to let go of Emily as they entered the small living room. Emily set her down on the couch and went to the kitchen to find something warm for the girl to eat. Opening the fridge, she quickly realized she didn't have much, certainly nothing a child would want. She settled for some scrambled eggs and toast, making a mental note to do a proper grocery run in the morning. Mia sat quietly, watching her with wide eyes as Emily set the plate down in front of her. "Here you go. It's not much, but it'll make you feel better," Emily said, sitting down beside her. Mia picked at the toast, taking small bites, her body still tense. Emily watched her, unsure what to say or do. She was a cop, not a caregiver, but there was something about Mia, her silence, her fear, that pulled at Emily's heart. "Do you know where your mommy is?" Emily asked softly, hoping to coax something out of her. Mia's eyes filled with tears and she shook her head. "Mommy told me to hide. She said it wasn't safe." Emily's heart broke. "Not safe from who, Mia?" Mia trembled, curling into herself. "A bad man. He hurt Mommy." Emily clenched her fists, her protective instincts flaring. Whoever this man was, he wasn't going to touch Mia. Not while she was around. The next morning, after a restless night, Emily woke up to find Mia already awake, sitting quietly in the corner of the living room. The girl was staring out the window, her knees pulled to her chest. Emily approached cautiously, her voice soft. "You okay, Mia?" Mia glanced up, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and longing. "Are you going to leave me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily's heart twisted. She crouched down beside Mia, gently placing a hand on the girl's shoulder. "No, I'm not going to leave you." Mia leaned into her touch, seeking comfort in the one person she had begun to trust. As the day wore on, Emily found herself growing more attached to Mia. She took the day off from work, telling her captain she had personal matters to attend to, and spent the day with Mia. They went grocery shopping. Emily bought all the things a little girl might like: fruit, snacks, juice. She even picked up a small stuffed bear at the checkout, something to make Mia smile. And Mia smiled. Just once, when Emily handed her the bear, it was enough to light up the entire room. That night, as Emily tucked Mia into bed, her own bed since she didn't have a guest room, Mia whispered, "Thank you." Emily smiled softly. "You're welcome." The peaceful moments didn't last. By the end of the week, Emily knew she couldn't delay the investigation any longer. Mia's mother, Sandra, was missing, and whoever this bad man was, he was still out there. Emily started digging through the town's records, looking for anything on Sandra Thompson. She found little, just a few hospital records and a police report from a few months ago. Sandra had been involved with Victor Kane, a man with a long criminal history. He had been arrested multiple times but never convicted, his connections running deep into the underbelly of the town's crime network. Emily felt a chill running down her spine. Mia's mother hadn't just been running from an abusive relationship. She had been running for her life. And now Mia was caught in the middle of it. Emily made a vow that night. She would protect Mia no matter the cost. Mia was changing. In the week she had been staying with Emily, her guarded silence had begun to shift. There were moments, small moments, when she would talk, when she would play with the stuffed bear Emily had bought her, when she seemed like any other child. But then, there were nightmares. It started with quiet whimpers, but it quickly escalated. Emily woke one night to the sound of Mia screaming. The girl was thrashing in her sleep, her face contorted in terror. Emily rushed into the bedroom and gently shook Mia awake. "Mia, honey, wake up, it's just a dream." Mia jolted upright, eyes wide with fear. For a moment she didn't recognize Emily. Her breaths came in quick, shallow gasps, and her small hands clutched the blanket as if it were her only lifeline. "Mommy," Mia sobbed, her voice raw and desperate. "Mommy, don't leave me." Emily sat on the bed and wrapped Mia in her arms, rocking her gently. "Shh, it's okay. You're safe. I'm here. No one's going to hurt you." Mia buried her face in Emily's chest, her body shaking. It took nearly an hour for her to calm down, and even then her eyes were filled with sadness, far too deep for a 6-year-old to carry. "What happened, Mia?" Emily asked softly, brushing the hair from her face. Mia hesitated, but after a long pause she whispered, "He was there. The bad man. He came to the house, and Mommy told me to hide." Emily's heart sank. "What did he do, Mia?" Mia shook her head violently, her lips trembling. "I don't want to talk about it. He hurt Mommy." Emily didn't push any further. She held Mia close, whispering soothing words until she fell back asleep. But as Emily sat there staring at the shadows on the wall, she felt a growing unease. Whoever this man was, he was still out there, and Mia was still in danger. The next day, Emily started piecing together the fragments of Mia's story. Every lead she found pointed back to Victor Kane, a name that sent a chill through her. He was a well-known criminal in Belridge, a man with deep connections to drug trafficking and organized crime. Sandra Thompson had gotten involved with him somehow, but the details were murky. Emily wasn't sure if Sandra had willingly been part of Victor's world or if she had been trapped in it. Either way, she was gone now, and Victor was still on the loose. She had to protect Mia. At work, Emily spent hours in the station's archives, looking through old case files and making phone calls. But as she dug deeper, she realized just how dangerous Victor Kane was. He wasn't just a small-time criminal. He was part of something bigger, something darker. Back at home, Mia sensed the change in Emily. The girl's natural wariness returned, her trust in Emily not yet solid enough to see through her worry. "Are we okay here?" Mia asked one night as Emily tucked her into bed. "Is he going to find me?" Emily froze. She had tried to keep the situation calm, not wanting to scare Mia any more than she already was. But Mia was perceptive. She had lived in fear long enough to recognize it when it appeared in others. Emily knelt beside the bed, forcing herself to smile. "You're safe with me," I promise. Mia's eyes were wide, full of uncertainty. "What if he comes here?" Emily's chest tightened. "He won't. I'll make sure of it." Mia nodded, but Emily could tell the girl wasn't convinced. And truth be told, neither was Emily. She had seen how far men like Victor were willing to go. The question wasn't whether he would come after Mia. It was when. The first warning came 2 days later in the form of a letter. Emily returned home from her shift to find it slipped under her front door. Her blood ran cold as she picked it up, recognizing the weight of the threat before she even read the words. "Stay away from the girl or you'll regret it." Her hands trembled as she crumpled the note. She scanned the street through her front window, looking for anything unusual, any sign that someone had been watching her. But there was nothing, only the stillness of the night, as if the town itself had no idea of the danger creeping through its streets. Emily knew what this meant. Victor had found them. She couldn't keep Mia here anymore. It wasn't safe. That evening, Emily called Jason Miller, her colleague and one of the few people she trusted. She explained the situation, and though he hesitated at first, concerned that she was getting in too deep, he agreed to help. "We'll move you both to a safe house," Jason said over the phone. "But Emily, you need to be careful. You've already taken on more than you should." "I'm fine," she replied, though the tightness in her chest betrayed her words. "Just help me protect her." Within hours, they were moved to a small, discreet house on the edge of town. It was basic, barely furnished, with only the essentials, but it was secure. Jason had arranged extra patrols in the area, and Emily had installed new locks and a security system. But even with all the precautions, Emily felt on edge. Mia was scared, asking questions that Emily didn't know how to answer. She sat by the window each night, watching for shadows, listening for any sound that didn't belong. One night, Mia whispered, "I want Mommy." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. "I know, sweetheart. I'm trying to find her." Mia's lip quivered and she hugged her stuffed bear tighter. "What if she's gone?" Emily didn't have an answer. She could only promise, "I won't let him hurt you. I won't let anyone hurt you." The attack came sooner than Emily expected. It was late, long after Mia had gone to sleep, when Emily heard the first noise, a faint shuffle outside the window. Her heart raced as she moved silently to the door, her gun already in hand. She peered through the blinds and saw them, 2 men standing in the shadows, waiting. Her stomach clenched. It was Victor's men. They had found them. Before she could react, the sound of breaking glass shattered the silence. Mia's scream echoed through the house. Emily's blood turned to ice as she raced to Mia's room. "Under the bed, Mia!" she shouted, her voice steady, despite the panic coursing through her veins. "Stay there and don't come out until I tell you to." Mia obeyed instantly, her eyes wide with terror. Emily positioned herself by the door, gun drawn, heart pounding. The men burst through the door moments later. Emily fought with everything she had, her training kicking in as she grappled with them. It was chaos, fists flying, shouts echoing through the small house. One man lunged at her, and she knocked him back with a hard punch to the jaw. They demanded to know where Mia was, but Emily refused to give them any information. "You're not touching her," she growled, determination giving her the strength to fight off the attackers. Jason and his backup arrived just in time. Sirens blared and the men were subdued, handcuffed, and dragged away. But Emily's relief was short-lived. She rushed back to Mia, who was still hiding under the bed, shaking with fear. "It's okay, Mia," Emily whispered, pulling her into her arms. "It's over. You're safe." But Emily knew the fight was far from over. Victor was still out there, and as long as he was free, Mia would never truly be safe. The aftermath of the attack left Emily shaken. Her home, what little security it had offered, was no longer a refuge. The safe house had been compromised. Mia was safe, but Emily knew they couldn't stay there anymore. Jason and the police department were able to apprehend Victor's men, but it was clear that Victor himself was still at large. He slipped through their fingers once again. Evelyn, the social worker, approached Emily the next day, her expression full of concern. "Emily, you've done so much for Mia, but it's not safe for her to stay with you anymore. We need to find her a permanent home." Emily's stomach twisted at the thought. She had grown so attached to Mia, but the truth was undeniable. The danger that surrounded her was real, and keeping Mia with her might be putting her in harm's way. "I need more time," Emily said, her voice breaking, "just until we catch Victor." Evelyn hesitated, but then nodded. "We'll give you a little more time, but you need to be careful, Emily. This can't go on forever." Days passed, but the weight of the recent attack still hung heavy in the air. The quiet nights at the safe house were filled with tension as Emily kept a vigilant watch over Mia. The thought of Victor Kane lurking somewhere out there made every shadow feel menacing. Yet, amidst all the fear and uncertainty, Emily felt something else growing. Her bond with Mia had deepened in ways she hadn't expected. Mia's nightmares continued, but she no longer screamed out for her mother in the night. Instead, she called for Emily. Each time, Emily would rush to her side, sitting with her until the terror passed. It was becoming routine, these quiet, shared moments of fear and comfort. With each passing day, Mia seemed to trust Emily a little more. One evening, as Emily sat beside Mia's bed, stroking the girl's hair while she drifted off to sleep, Mia asked a question that made Emily's heart ache. "Will you leave me too?" Emily paused, her hand stilling in Mia's dark hair. The girl's voice was small, fragile, and filled with the kind of fear no child should ever know. "I won't leave you, Mia," Emily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I promise." Mia blinked up at her, her wide brown eyes filled with uncertainty. "But what if they take me away, like Mommy?" Emily's throat tightened, and for a moment she couldn't speak. She had been trying so hard to protect Mia, but the truth was there were forces beyond her control. If the police couldn't catch Victor, if the social services system deemed it too dangerous, Mia might be taken away, placed in foster care where Emily wouldn't be able to protect her. "I won't let that happen," Emily whispered, her voice filled with determination. "We're going to figure this out together, okay?" Mia nodded, but the sadness didn't leave her eyes. Emily was restless. Every night after putting Mia to bed, she would sit in the small living room of the safe house, poring over the case files she had gathered on Sandra Thompson and Victor Kane. She couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she had missed, some clue that would lead her to Sandra, or at least give her a better understanding of what had happened. Then, one cold, rainy afternoon, a call came in. Emily's heart raced as she listened to the voice on the other end of the line. It was Jason. They had found something. Sandra's car had been discovered in the woods just outside of town, abandoned. "I'm on my way," Emily said, grabbing her keys and jacket. The drive to the scene was tense, and the knot in Emily's stomach grew tighter with every mile. When she arrived, she found Jason and a small group of officers standing by a roped-off area in the woods. The sight that met her eyes made her heart sink. Sandra's car was barely recognizable, overgrown with weeds and branches, as if nature itself had tried to hide it. But it wasn't the car that caused Emily's heart to break. Just beyond the vehicle, in a shallow grave, they found what was left of Sandra Thompson. Emily stared at the scene in silence, her mind racing. Sandra had been dead for months. All this time she had been hoping to reunite Mia with her mother, but now she had to figure out how to tell a 6-year-old that her mother was never coming back. Later that night, as Emily sat with Mia, she felt the words stick in her throat. How could she possibly explain this kind of loss to a child? But Mia, perceptive as ever, seemed to sense that something was wrong. "Did you find Mommy?" Mia asked, her voice so small and hopeful that it nearly broke Emily's heart. Emily swallowed hard, her chest tight. "Mia, I'm so sorry. Your Mommy, she's not coming back." Mia stared at her for a long moment, her face blank. Then, slowly, the realization dawned. Tears filled her eyes, and she clutched her stuffed bear tightly to her chest. "She's gone?" Mia whispered, her voice shaking. Emily nodded, her own eyes filling with tears. "I'm so sorry, Mia." The little girl broke down in sobs, and Emily pulled her into her arms, holding her as tightly as she could. There were no words that could make this better, no comfort that could ease this kind of pain. All Emily could do was be there for Mia, just as she had promised. In the weeks that followed Sandra's discovery, Mia became quieter. She no longer had nightmares, but the spark in her eyes had dimmed. Emily tried everything to lift her spirits: trips to the park, small toys, extra time spent reading her favorite books, but nothing seemed to work. One night, as they sat together on the couch watching a movie, Mia turned to Emily with a serious look on her face. "I don't want to go to a new house," Mia said quietly. Emily felt her heart skip a beat. She had been dreading this conversation. "I know, sweetheart," Emily said gently, "but we need to find a place where you'll be safe." Mia's eyes welled up with tears. "But I feel safe with you. I don't want to go anywhere else." The weight of Mia's words settled over Emily like a heavy blanket. She had been trying so hard to remain detached, to keep herself from getting too close. But it was too late. She loved Mia. She had grown to care for this little girl more than she ever thought possible. And now, Mia was asking her for something Emily wasn't sure she was ready to give. Emily hesitated, her throat tight. "I love having you here, Mia, but I'm not sure if I'm the best person to take care of you. I'm not your mommy." Mia shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You don't have to be my mommy. I just don't want to lose you too." Emily's heart shattered. She pulled Mia into her arms, holding her tightly. "You're not going to lose me," Emily whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm right here, and I'm not going anywhere." In that moment, Emily made a decision. She wasn't going to let Mia go. No matter what it took, she would keep Mia safe. She would adopt her, become her legal guardian, and give her the home she deserved. The next morning, Emily called Evelyn, the social worker. "I've made my decision," Emily said, her voice steady. "I want to adopt Mia." Evelyn was quiet for a moment, then said, "Emily, are you sure? This is a big responsibility." "I'm sure," Emily replied. "She needs me, and I need her too." The adoption process was long and filled with paperwork, but Emily was determined. She spent every free moment at the courthouse meeting with social workers and lawyers, navigating the bureaucratic maze. Jason, always by her side, supported her in any way he could, offering words of encouragement and the occasional light-hearted joke to lift her spirits. Through it all, Mia remained quiet but hopeful. She still had moments where the grief for her mother would surface, but Emily was always there to comfort her, to remind her that she wasn't alone. One afternoon, after a particularly grueling meeting with a lawyer, Emily and Jason sat together at a small cafe near the courthouse. Jason sipped his coffee and gave her a sideways glance. "You know, I've never seen you like this." "Like what?" Emily asked, raising an eyebrow. like someone who's ready to fight for something. Or someone, Jason said with a smile. You've always been so focused on the job, on doing everything by the book, but this is different. Emily leaned back in her chair, staring into her coffee cup. I never thought I'd be a mother, Jason. I never thought I could let someone get that close to me. Jason nodded, his expression softening. It's scary, I know, but you're doing a good thing, Emily. Mia's lucky to have you. Emily smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. I'm the lucky one. Weeks turned into months, and finally, after what felt like an eternity, the adoption papers were finalized. Mia Thompson was officially Mia Harper. The day the papers came through, Emily took Mia to the park to celebrate. They sat together on the swings, the crisp autumn air brushing against their faces. Do you know what this means? Emily asked, her voice soft. Mia looked up at her with wide eyes. What? It means you're officially my daughter now, Emily said, her heart swelling with emotion. Mia's face lit up with the biggest smile Emily had ever seen. Really? Really, Emily confirmed, smiling through the tears that threatened to spill over. Mia jumped off the swing and threw her arms around Emily, hugging her tightly. I love you, Mom. Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had never been called Mom before, and the sound of it nearly brought her to her knees. I love you too, Mia, she whispered, holding her daughter close. But even as they celebrated this new beginning, Emily couldn't shake the lingering sense of danger. Victor Kane was still out there, and as long as he was, neither she nor Mia could truly be safe. Emily Harper had thought the hardest part was behind her. The adoption was finalized, and Mia was finally her daughter. But as the days went by, the joy of their newfound family life was shadowed by an underlying fear. Victor Kane was still out there. Mia had flourished since the adoption. The once quiet, fearful girl now laughed and played more freely, her smile lighting up the house. Her teachers at school reported that Mia was doing better socially, making friends and showing interest in her classes. Emily, for the first time in years, felt a sense of true peace and contentment. But that peace was fragile. The quiet nights still left Emily on edge, her instincts always alert. Every shadow seemed darker, every stranger seemed like a threat. She couldn't shake the feeling that Victor was still watching, waiting for the right moment to strike. One evening, after tucking Mia into bed, Emily sat on the porch, watching the stars blink against the dark sky. Jason pulled up in his truck and stepped out, a friendly smile on his face. Thought I'd stop by and see how things are going, he said, sitting beside her on the porch steps. Emily glanced at him, managing a small smile. It's been good. Mia's doing great, but you can't stop worrying, Jason finished, his expression softening. Emily nodded, staring out into the quiet street. I just can't shake the feeling that he's still out there, waiting for his chance. Jason sighed, leaning back against the porch railing. We'll find him, Emily. He can't hide forever. But what if he's not hiding? Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What if he's planning something? Jason didn't respond right away. He knew the danger was real, just as much as Emily did. But they couldn't live in constant fear, and Jason had seen how much Mia had changed under Emily's care, how much Emily herself had changed. Victor's dangerous, no doubt about that, Jason said finally. But you're not alone in this. You've got the department behind you, you've got me. And more importantly, you've got Mia. You're not the same person you were when this all started, Emily. You're stronger now. Emily glanced at him, the weight of his words sinking in. He was right. She had changed. She wasn't just a police officer anymore. She was Mia's mother, and that gave her a strength she hadn't known she was capable of. The peace didn't last long. A few days later, Emily received a call at the police station from one of her old informants. The news sent a chill down her spine. Victor Kane had resurfaced. He had been spotted in a small town just a few miles away, asking questions about Mia and Emily. Emily's blood ran cold. She knew this was it. Victor was coming for them. She rushed home, her mind racing. Mia was still at school, unaware of the storm brewing around her. Emily had to act fast. She called Jason, her voice tense with urgency. "It's happening, Jason. He's close." "We need to move fast," Jason replied, his voice steady. "Get Mia from school and bring her to the station. We'll keep you both safe there until we can apprehend Victor." Emily wasted no time. She drove to Mia's school, her heart pounding in her chest. When she arrived, she found Mia sitting at her desk, coloring quietly. The sight of her innocent, unaware daughter made Emily's heart ache, but there was no time to dwell on it. "Mia, sweetheart," Emily said softly, crouching down beside her. "We need to leave. There's something important I have to take care of, and I need you with me." Mia's eyes widened with worry, but she nodded, trusting Emily completely. As they drove to the police station, Emily's mind raced with scenarios. She knew Victor was ruthless. He would stop at nothing to get to Mia. But she was ready. She wasn't the same scared officer who had stumbled upon a little girl in a dumpster months ago. She was a mother now, and she would protect her daughter at all costs. When they arrived at the station, Jason and the rest of the team were already in full action mode. They had set up a perimeter around the building and were monitoring all possible entrances. They had the town on alert, and extra patrols were being dispatched to track Victor down. Jason met them at the door, his expression grim but determined. "We've got eyes on him, Emily. He's not far." Emily nodded, her resolve hardening. She kept a firm hold on Mia's hand as they entered the secure room in the back of the station. But as the minutes ticked by, the tension grew. Emily could feel it. Victor was close. Too close. Suddenly, the sound of screeching tires outside the station sent everyone into action. The radio crackled to life, confirming their worst fear. Victor Kane had arrived. Emily's heart pounded in her chest as she crouched down to Mia's level. "Stay here, okay? Stay with Officer Parker. I'm going to make sure everything's fine." Mia nodded, though Emily could see the fear in her eyes. "Be careful, Mommy." Emily swallowed the lump in her throat and kissed Mia's forehead. "I will." She stepped outside into the cool evening air, her gun at the ready, her pulse racing. The street was eerily quiet, but she could feel the tension in the air. The station was on high alert, officers stationed at every possible entry point. And then she saw him. Victor Kane stood at the far end of the street, his eyes locked on her, a twisted smile curling on his lips. He took a step forward, and Emily felt a surge of adrenaline rush through her veins. "Emily Harper," Victor called out, his voice mocking. "It's been a long time, hasn't it? I've been looking for you." Emily tightened her grip on her gun. "It's over, Victor. You're not getting near Mia." Victor laughed, his eyes glinting with malice. "You think you can stop me? You think you can keep her from me?" Emily's jaw clenched. "I know I can." With that, the situation exploded into action. Victor lunged forward and the police moved in. Emily acted on instinct, firing a warning shot into the ground in front of Victor's feet. He stopped in his tracks, his eyes narrowing. "You're not going to win this," Emily said, her voice steady. "It's over." Victor sneered but didn't move. Jason and the other officers closed in, surrounding him. Victor knew he was trapped, but the look in his eyes showed that he wasn't ready to give up. For a tense moment, everything hung in the balance. Then, with a sudden movement, Victor reached for something in his jacket, a weapon, perhaps, but he never got the chance to use it. Jason tackled him to the ground, pinning him before he could react. Victor struggled, but it was no use. The police quickly cuffed him, dragging him to his feet as the situation finally came to a close. Emily stood there, her heart racing, watching as Victor was led away. The danger was over. He wouldn't hurt Mia. Not now, not ever. The days following Victor's arrest were a blur of relief and exhaustion. The town had been on edge for so long, but now, with Victor behind bars, there was finally a sense of peace. Mia, too, seemed lighter. She no longer asked about the bad man, no longer looked over her shoulder with fear. Emily noticed the change immediately. Mia was finally free to just be a child. One evening, as the sun set over their quiet neighborhood, Emily sat on the porch with Mia, watching her draw with chalk on the sidewalk. Jason joined them, bringing a sense of warmth and normalcy to their little family. "You did it, you know," Jason said quietly, his voice filled with admiration. "You kept her safe. You gave her a home." Emily smiled softly, her heart swelling with pride and love as she watched Mia. "We did it." Mia looked up at them, her face beaming. "Look, Mommy, I drew us." Emily glanced down at the chalk, drawing on the pavement a stick-figure family with Mia, Emily, and even Jason. She felt a lump rise in her throat as she looked at the picture, realizing just how much her life had changed since that fateful night. They had come so far, through so much pain and danger. But now they have a future. Together. As the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the horizon, Emily wrapped her arm around Mia, pulling her close. For the first time in what felt like forever, she allowed herself to truly breathe. They were safe, they were a family, and they had a future filled with hope. 1 year had passed since the day Victor Kane was arrested, and life in Belridge had slowly returned to normal. For Emily Harper, normal had a new definition. It wasn't the cold, detached life of patrolling empty streets or burying herself in police work to avoid confronting her past. Now, normal meant school drop-offs, family dinners, and hearing the word Mom every day. Mia had grown so much in the last year. She was no longer the scared, silent girl Emily had found in the alley. Her dark eyes, once filled with fear, now sparkled with life. Her laugh, which had once been a rare and fragile sound, was now a regular occurrence in their home. And their home, it felt like a home now. Mia's drawings decorated the walls and toys were scattered around the living room, creating a sense of warmth and family that Emily hadn't realized she'd been missing. Jason had become a regular fixture in their lives, too. What started as casual support during the storm of Mia's adoption and the danger of Victor's looming threat had grown into something deeper. He was a friend, a protector, and someone Emily had come to rely on. Mia adored him, often calling him her best buddy when they spent afternoons tossing a ball in the yard. It was a peaceful morning when Emily found herself sitting at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee while Mia finished her breakfast. The sunlight streamed through the windows, casting a golden glow on everything. "Mommy, can we go to the park today?" Mia asked, her eyes bright with excitement. Emily smiled. "Of course, we can go after school. Maybe we'll grab some ice cream on the way home." Mia grinned, her face lit up. "Yay! Can Jason come too?" Emily chuckled. "I'm sure he'll say yes." As they prepared to leave for school, Emily couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. The fear that once haunted their every move had been replaced with a sense of safety and love. They had created a life that felt good, solid, and filled with hope. Later that afternoon, after picking Mia up from school, Emily, Jason, and Mia made their way to the park. It was a perfect day. The kind of day where the troubles of the world seemed far away. Children played on the playground. Families picnicked in the grass, and the town's usual buzz of life felt comforting. Mia ran ahead, her laughter echoing through the park as she chased a butterfly, her feet kicking up dust as she raced across the grass. Emily watched her, her heart swelling with love and pride. She had never imagined herself in this role, but now she couldn't imagine her life any other way. "She's come a long way," Jason said quietly, standing beside Emily. Emily nodded, her gaze never leaving Mia. "Yeah, she has. We both have." Jason smiled, glancing at her with a warmth that had grown over time. "You're a great mom, Emily. Mia's lucky to have you." Emily felt a lump rise in her throat. She had heard those words before, but hearing them from Jason after everything they had been through meant something different. She glanced at him, her voice soft. "Thank you. I wouldn't have made it through without your help." Jason shrugged, though his eyes shone with emotion. "We're a team, right?" Emily smiled, a sense of peace washing over her. It was true. They were a team, and this new life they had built together with Mia at the center felt like something solid and lasting. The weight of the past was finally lifting, and Emily allowed herself to believe that the future would be bright. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Emily and Jason sat on a bench watching Mia play with a group of other kids. Her laughter was infectious, and the sight of her running freely without a care in the world filled Emily with joy. Jason glanced at Emily, his voice soft. "Do you ever think about what's next?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" Jason shrugged, looking a little nervous for the first time in a while. "You know, what's next for us? For you and Mia. And maybe for us." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had sensed this question coming for a while now, but hearing it out loud made it feel real. The past year had been filled with so much change, and Jason had been there for every step of it. The thought of building a future with him, a real, lasting future, had crossed her mind more than once. She smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. "I think about it all the time." Jason's face softened, a smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "And? What do you think?" Emily looked out at Mia, her daughter, running and playing, so full of life. Then she turned back to Jason, her heart steady. "I think we've got a lot to look forward to." Jason grinned, relief and happiness shining in his eyes. "I like the sound of that." As the last of the daylight faded, and Mia ran over to them with a wide smile on her face, Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had found something she didn't even know she was missing: a family. And with Jason by her side and Mia in her arms, she knew they would face whatever came next together. That night, after Mia had been tucked into bed and the house had grown quiet, Emily stood by the window gazing out at the stars. Her heart was full in a way she had never imagined possible. The darkness that had once clouded her life had been replaced with light, with hope, with love. She thought back to the moment she had found Mia in the alley, cold and afraid, and how that one decision to take her in had changed everything. Emily had been so lost back then, lost in her own pain, her own grief. But Mia had given her purpose, had shown her that life could be more than just going through the motions. Now they had a future, a real future. And though there would be challenges ahead, because life always had its challenges, Emily knew they would face them as a family. As she turned away from the window, a smile tugged at her lips. She was ready for whatever came next, and she knew that with Mia and Jason by her side, she could handle anything. The spring air was warm and filled with the sound of laughter as the Belridge town square bustled with activity. It was the annual spring festival, and the entire town had gathered to celebrate. Colorful banners fluttered in the breeze and children darted around, their faces painted with butterflies and superheroes. The scent of freshly baked goods wafted through the air, mixing with the sweet smell of blooming flowers. In the center of it all was Mia, running with a group of children, her cheeks flushed with excitement as she chased after a kite. Emily watched from a nearby bench, her heart swelling with pride as she saw how carefree and happy her daughter had become. The transformation over the past year had been nothing short of remarkable. Mia was thriving at school, making friends, and enjoying normalcy she had long been deprived of. Her nightmares were fewer, and her smile came easier now. Sitting beside Emily was Jason, as always, a steady presence. He had become an integral part of their lives, and the bond between the three of them had only grown stronger. His hand rested comfortably on the bench, brushing against Emily's, a silent reminder of their quiet but growing connection. "You know," Jason said, his voice warm with affection, "seeing Mia like this, it's hard to believe she's the same little girl you found." Emily nodded, her eyes following Mia as she ran across the grass, her kite soaring high above her. "She's come a long way. We both have." Jason smiled, his gaze soft. "I knew you'd be a great mom, Emily." Emily turned to look at him, feeling a surge of gratitude for everything he had done for them. Jason had been there through the worst of it, standing by her side as she navigated the challenges of motherhood, the fear of Victor, and the emotional weight of her past. But now, with Victor gone and the adoption behind them, Emily felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in years. "Thanks, Jason," she said quietly, her voice filled with emotion. "For everything." Jason shrugged, a teasing grin playing on his lips. "Hey, what are partners for?" Emily laughed softly, but there was something more behind the laugh, something deeper that had been growing between them for months. She had tried to deny it, to keep things professional. But the truth was, Jason had become more than just a friend. He had become part of their family. As the festival continued, Mia ran back to them, breathless and grinning. "Mom, Jason, look how high I got the kite." Emily smiled, wrapping her arms around Mia as she knelt beside her. "It's amazing, sweetie. You're doing so great." Jason ruffled Mia's hair, his eyes filled with pride. "You're a natural, kiddo." Mia beamed, her joy infectious as she hugged both of them tightly. For a moment, everything felt perfect. The warm sun, the laughter in the air, and the sense of belonging that Emily had once thought she would never feel. Later that evening, after the festival had ended and Mia had been tucked into bed, Emily and Jason sat together on the porch of Emily's house, enjoying the quiet of the night. The stars twinkled overhead, and the soft hum of crickets filled the air. It was peaceful, the kind of peace that Emily had longed for when she first took Mia in. Jason shifted beside her, his hand brushing hers. "I've been thinking about something." Emily glanced at him, raising an eyebrow. "Oh? What's that?" Jason hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "You and Mia, you've both become such an important part of my life, and I've been wondering, maybe it's time to take things to the next level." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had sensed this conversation coming for a while, but hearing it out loud made her pulse quicken. She felt a mix of excitement and fear, unsure of what exactly the next level meant, but knowing it was a step toward something deeper. Jason looked at her, his eyes full of sincerity. "I'm not trying to rush you or anything, but I care about both of you, a lot, and I want to be there for you, for Mia, in a more official way." Emily felt her throat tighten. She had spent so long guarding her heart, keeping people at arm's length, that the idea of opening herself up fully to Jason, of building a life together as a family, felt both exhilarating and terrifying. But she couldn't deny the truth. She wanted this too. "I've been thinking about it too," Emily admitted, her voice soft but steady. "You've been there for us through everything, Jason, and I think maybe it's time we talked about what the future looks like. Together." Jason's face broke into a smile, and Emily felt her heart warm at the sight. He reached for her hand, holding it gently. "I'd like that, Emily. I'd like that a lot." They sat in comfortable silence for a few moments, both of them reflecting on how far they had come. The darkness that once clouded Emily's life had lifted, replaced by the light of a new beginning, one that included Jason, Mia, and the family they were slowly becoming. The next morning, as Emily and Jason sat at the kitchen table with their morning coffee, Mia bounced into the room, her face lit up with excitement. "Mom, Jason, guess what?" Mia said, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "What is it, sweetheart?" Emily asked, smiling as she watched her daughter's joy. "At school yesterday we were talking about families, and I told everyone about our family," Mia said proudly, her small hands fidgeting with the hem of her shirt. Emily's heart warmed at Mia's words. "And what did you say?" Mia beamed, her voice filled with pride. "I said I have the best family ever. I have you as my mom, and I have Jason. He's like my dad." Emily exchanged a surprised look with Jason, her heart swelling with emotion. She hadn't expected Mia to say something like that, but hearing the words made her realize just how much Jason meant to both of them. Jason, too, looked taken aback, but a soft smile spread across his face. He knelt down to Mia's level, his voice gentle. "Is that what you think of me, kiddo? Like a dad?" Mia nodded, her eyes bright. "Yeah, you've always been there for us, just like a dad would be." Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness, they were tears of joy. She hadn't expected this moment to come, but now that it had, she realized how much it meant to her. Jason reached out and ruffled Mia's hair, his voice thick with emotion. "Well, I think you're pretty amazing too, Mia, and I'd be honored to be part of your family." Mia grinned and threw her arms around Jason, hugging him tightly. Emily watched the scene unfold, her heart full to the brim. This was her family. A family she had never expected, but had come to cherish more than anything. Later that afternoon, after the excitement of the morning had settled down, Emily found herself alone with Jason once again. They stood in the backyard, watching Mia play with her chalk on the sidewalk, drawing yet another picture of their growing family. Jason glanced at Emily, his expression serious but filled with warmth. "You know, I was thinking about what Mia said earlier, about being like her dad." Emily nodded, her heart still swelling with pride from Mia's words. "Yeah, it caught me off guard, but she's right. You've been there for us, like family." Jason took a deep breath, his gaze softening. "Emily, I love you, and I love Mia. I want to be there for both of you, not just as a friend or a partner at work, but as part of your family." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had known this moment was coming, but hearing the words made it real in a way she hadn't anticipated. Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "I know we've been through a lot together, and I don't want to rush you, but I've never been more certain about anything in my life. I want to marry you, Emily. I want to be a father to Mia. I want us to be a family." Emily felt the tears rise again, but this time she didn't try to stop them. She looked down at the ring, her heart pounding in her chest, and then back at Jason. "I love you too, Jason," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Yes, I'll marry you." Jason grinned, slipping the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a tight embrace. The world seemed to fade away for a moment as they stood there holding each other, their future stretching out before them, full of love and promise. Months later, on a beautiful spring day, surrounded by their closest friends and family, Emily and Jason stood together under a canopy of blooming flowers, ready to say their vows. Mia stood beside them, her face beaming with excitement as she clutched a small bouquet of flowers. The ceremony was simple, intimate, and perfect. As Emily and Jason exchanged vows, Promising to love and protect each other for the rest of their lives, Emily felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey that had begun with a little girl in a dumpster had led her to this moment, a moment of love, family, and hope. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Jason leaned down to kiss Emily, the crowd erupting into cheers. Mia clapped loudly, her joy infectious as she ran to them, wrapping her arms around both of them. "We're a real family now," Mia said, her voice filled with awe. Emily smiled, her heart overflowing with love. "We always were, sweetheart." As they walked down the aisle, hand in hand, Emily knew that this was just the beginning of their next chapter. Together, they would face whatever life threw at them. They had found each other through tragedy and danger, but now they have built something beautiful, and that was worth everything. If you've been touched by Emily, Mia, and Jason's journey from heartbreak to hope, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. Join us for more stories about love, family, and resilience that will warm your heart. Comment below what part of the story moved you the most, and don't forget to share this with someone who could use a little inspiration today. Click here for more stories that will bring a smile to your face. You won't want to miss what's coming next.